Я работал режиссером Народного театра.
I used to work as a director at the National Theatre. I used to sing, participated in competitions, international ones. What I liked and others didn't like is I liked what I want, not what they want. I want what I want, and they say I couldn't do it. My best staging production ever was the marriage ceremony. 5 actors, 2 acts, and a pause. Lots of humor. Just your everyday rural life. And I'm closed up here. You can say so. And I feel sad because no one needs me. Absolutely. But of course you want to go back to the stage. But those are all dreams now. To be truthful, these dreams can never come true. During my service, I was awarded the rank of Colonel General. Different things happened during the service. I used to serve with Dudaev in Dnipro. We both drank, and the officers did, and we sat on the plane and flew until we lost the landing strip. We were so close to death back then. What I liked in the service was the order and attitude to your oath. There used to be love, a lot of it. Everyone had a woman there, and sometimes a woman somewhere. I would like to get better. Life itself is beautiful. You'd like to live and live again, not in the name of oneself, but in the name of people. To love the people, to love the children, to help people. Military officer.
Собі я гіркі сльози поховаю.
I will bury my bitter tears in myself,
Не приховаю
and I will hide all the wishes of my quiet dreams,
моїх мрій, які сплелись.
intertwined with rays of hope.
Душі зачерствіть я не дам даремно.
I will not allow my soul to harden in vain, and I will not give myself over to anger. I will quietly cry in vain, and I will give peace to my heart, quietly. If here and there gets bitter to me, my heart will ache with rupture in an instant. I will fix the torn strings of my soul, and I will soar like a bird in the blue sky. I will think and weigh the inappropriate. I will erase from memory the bad influences of people. I will do what brings me comfort and in my heart and my soul. I used to work as a journalist. I graduated at Shevchenko National University, and I started my career in the newspaper, Village News. My favorite genre was feuilleton, short comic story. I used to write for Desnanska Pravda. What made me happy in my profession? to bring joy to people, to help someone. I used to go on business trips and help people. I started my work from the editorial department, and people sent us letters. You had to sort out those letters. So helping people was my main job. I'm trying to do it even now. All my life, I worked as a construction worker. I graduated to a foreman. Then, before retiring, I used to be chief engineer. When the whole Afghanistan campaign began, we were the first to be conscripted as a reserve, and we were the first to enter Afghanistan. It's hard to say what I dream about. What can I dream about in this age? To have a roof over your head, to be able to get help if you're sick. There used to be a glass arts warehouse and a factory. I used to be a cook there. And I met my husband in that factory. Quite a good life. So my friend said, you know, there's this great guy. And I say, I'm not here to look for guys. But still they prevailed, and we've been 13 years together. I like embroidery. I don't like knitting, but embroidery. So every time I get sad a little bit, I do embroidery. He loves me, but never tells me why he loves me. He says, I liked you, and just like that. I used to be on the Kiev National Bar Association. I get into a big deal right away, a great case, the case of Balin. And the hearing was in Kiev Regional Court. The Regional Court was the first instance court. People got big imprisonments. It was big signs for me. There were Felician Rivalchenko and other lawyers. And so I still want to study. I want to graduate Kiev University Faculty of Psychology. And I at least want to graduate some training courses on psychiatry. Happiness is not outside, it's in me. I create an inner climate for myself that I feel good. I wake up with a great mood. By the end of the day, I may even have a better mood. For 7 years, I served as a sailor. I liked serving in the Navy. So I was serving on a landing craft. We drove from Poland to Vladivostok by sea. It was a northern naval route. I also was in Syria in 1967 when the Suez Canal was closed. I was a radio operator on the ship, but now the more you live, the less you need. I was a teacher 5 years at the kindergarten first. I had very good attitude to children. I treat them with love. You have to love them. It's scary to look in the mirror because I'm so old and wrinkled up. To live at least a bit more, whatever life is, to live a little more. I am afraid to die. Who are you today? What will be your fate tomorrow? Greetings, friends. We're happy to have you back on the second day of Ukrainian Pension Forum, conducted for the first time in Ukraine. And today we decided to start with these stories of people who love their profession, who spend the biggest part of their life to a certain profession. So what unites these people? They used to love their profession, they worked, and then there was old age and pension, and there's some future ahead. But what's the quality of this future? So this is the second day of this forum. We're talking about dignified retirement and pension in Ukraine, and we're looking for ways to make retirement in Ukraine dignified. We've talked about Denmark yesterday, and many of you wrote, we would like to be pensioners and retiree in Denmark, where there are only happy faces wherever senile people are. So yesterday we talked about the real economics, the international experience. We talked about the demographics, and I hope you now understand how important it is to do the census, the population census we've never had for 20 years. We talked about services that have to be provided to elderly so that we all have the right for dignified retirement, and the opportunities to train, to learn, to be active. We also talked about palliative care and hospices. And I thank to not only everyone who listened and watched 4 hours of panels, discussions, but also sent some ideas on our email. You will see it on the screen again. And if you have more ideas or new ideas overnight or right now, make sure you send them to this email. If you think you know something to do about pension reform, about the strategy of the model of dignified retirement in Ukraine, idea@pensionforum.org.ua. So this is the second day, and this is the third panel of the forum. And the first forum for today is pension reform, economic foundations for pension contributions and investment. We talk about figures, numbers, budgets, economic future, and models of the pension contributions. Our experts who are professionals in the field, and they are ready to offer their vision of how we can all achieve this model of dignified retirement in Ukraine. Vitaly Melnichuk is here, MP of Ukraine of the first Parliament. Vitaly Lomakovich, advisor to the Minister of Finance of Ukraine, head of the Ford Institute Board of Directors. Sergei Fursa, investment banker, deputy director on securities of Dragon Capital. Grigory Ovcharenko, head of the Department of Managing Local Assets, ICU. Head of the Council of the All Ukrainian Association of Non-State Pension Funds. And also we have Taras Kozak, head of the investment company Univer. So in order for a person, when they retire, to have a dignified support, we need the pension model to work properly. Only if we have 3 levels of support, we can have the sufficient ratio on the replacement ratio. If you still have a question what it is, we talked about it yesterday. And yesterday we heard the Minister of Social Policy, Lazebna, and Kenichi Hiros as an international expert. And he said that the replacement rate in Ukraine has been decreasing. So what's a three-level or three-tier model? We may talk today about obvious things to many people. Maybe you still have to wrap your heads around these concepts, but the pension reform has three tiers. It's a solidary system, which is where as we work, certain percentage is deduced from your salary, which goes into one pot, and from that pot, the pensions are paid out to those who retire. Second tier, personalized pension. So for everyone, there is a personified pension account, which a person pays some fracture every month. You may say, I'm not employed, and that would be true, because for 16 years, the second tier has been attempted to, but failed. And Deputy Minister Lazebna said that she's hopeful that in the first quarter, maybe the first half of this year, the MPs will absolutely vote for mandatory pension accrual and contributions. And third tier is the voluntary accrual. For about 1 million people in Ukraine use non-state pension funds. They establish a certain amount that they pay quarterly or monthly, and by doing so, they hope for a dignified pension later. But you have to understand a very simple thing, that replacement ratio will only be available to you when all three levels are working of what we call pension reform in Ukraine. But now, we only have the first and the third tier. For 16 years, the second tier has been attempted, but to no avail. And I would like to ask Vitaly Malnichuk. He's an expert in pension reform issues. Vitaly, shall we trust Marina Lazebna and hope for the goodwill and political will of the MPs? But I've been working for 20 years on TV. People say political will when something doesn't work or laws don't work. We say there's no political will. When will it finally happen? And am I right to say that only three tiers together will say the sufficient replacement ratio? Yeah. If all three things come together, it would be great. But I would like to thank for the yesterday. I was watching non-stop. Me too. You were working, right? Yeah, I was working, but I was listening to all the experts. I had a little bad feeling for those who spoke as last, because the previous speakers took too much time. So I just want to read what I've prepared, and then we'll discuss it. So the pension reform in Ukraine started in 1998. The father of the pension reform, Anatoly Kolchinsky, initiated the new executive order how to reform the system of pension. Then the president signed this order based on the recommendation of the report of the World Bank in 1994 that was mentioned yesterday by the UN expert Alexander Sidorenko. The strategic task was set to transform the two-level pension model in Ukraine into a multilateral or multi-level system, also to introduce the system of individual pension accounts and accrual to them. The first practical step towards the implementation of pension strategy were laws on mandatory pension insurance and non-state pension support that were approved by the parliament in summer 2003. The first introduced the three-level model of the pension system as the solidary first level, the the contribution and voluntary contribution. And then the law on the acting solidarity system was introduced and the foundations of mandatory contribution. The second law kick-started the voluntary pension contribution, which still now, despite the lack of attention from the state, provides the dignified old age for the citizen. In 2003, the government and the parliament and the roadmap of pension reform introduced that in 2007 there has to be introduced the mandatory contribution system and professional. And the finalization of the pension reform would have to be finalized by 2009. So the funded pension plan from that time till now was sabotaged, in the best term, or throwing everything you can onto the fire. The Vice Prime Minister's reform of Sergei Tevgipko 2011, Arseniy Yatsenuk's reform, Natalia Yareska's reform 2016, pension reform of Vladimir Groisman and Andrei Reva in 2017, the imitation reform from National Commission on Securities and their head Timur Kharmayev in 2016 to 20, and in the recent years the head of the Committee of Parliament of Social Policy, Madam Helena Tretyakova. The breaking point happened in October 2020, when the Prime Minister first publicly said that this current generation of people, in 15 years, they won't be able to get pension because Ukraine will not have any stocks to pay from. And everybody was shocked. But even it was then, for the first time, the government said aloud that within the solidarity pension system, there is no resolution for the pension problem. So we have to get back to the model that was founded in 2003 to finalize the transformation of the existing system into multi-layer system. So we can say that in autumn 2020, the pension reform of Ukraine, after the 15 years of profanation and imitation, it was finally continued. And we have to give credit to those who dared. Minister of Social Policy Lazitna and Prime Minister Shmyhal. What and how should be done within this current, let's hope, final stage of the pension reform, so that the citizens have the dignified pensions support? Currently, we have four main directions of pension reform that the government tries to pursue. First, the improvement of the pension laws in solidarity system, and the draft bills are now being drafted by the Ministry of Social Policy. Introduction of the mandatory accrual system or funded pension plan, professional pension, funded pension plan for some categories of professions that have the pension earlier than the pension age. Fourthly, development of non-state pension support and protection of property rights and interests of the participants in the system. Each of these four directions is important, but still, to provide sustainability of the pension system, the key importance is to provide mandatory funded pension plan and voluntary, based on individual pension accounts of citizens. That's why we focus your attention on the draft bill of Ukraine on mandatory state pension support 2683, introduced at the end of 2019 to the Parliament by Helena Tretyakova and other MPs, and it provides the general mandatory funded pension plan. The draft bill is far from perfect. The rigid, centralized model of the second level throws us back 16 years back of this funded pension plan. There are also chances of corruption. It prevents the voluntary pension system from development. It has to create a special infrastructure, budgetary incomes, and certain conditions for institutions. So experts think how it happens that this complex and very important draft bill that was funded by EBRD under the Commission of Securities, the draft is submitted not by the government, who has to own this draft, not the president who heads the commission, but private persons, MPs let they be. So it's a counting chamber, question to counting chamber, where I was working for 7 years. And replacement for the draft bill 2683D that was finalized based on offers from the Ministry of Social Policy and the Committee of Social Policy that accounts for professional opinions and industrial trade unions. It will decrease the corruption risk, the risk of monopolization, provides higher protection for pension system, and provides comprehensive development of all three levels. It would be great if the Parliament would review this draft bill and finalize it in the next sessions and would approve it in general as the financial strategy outlines till 2025. Then we would be able to begin the development of second level. And as we prepare it, we have to strengthen the system of protection of these pension contributions, and that the economy plays a better role. In order to do that, we have to introduce additional reliable systems for pension contributions and better ways to guarantee them. We have to also improve the work of the third level, better state supervision on these contributions, and introduce the changes to the strategy of development of the financial sector till 2025. In order to introduce a reliable infrastructure, we need to develop the state pension system and to make the important steps to do that. First, to initiate the introduction of non-state pension support at public companies that are eligible for privatization. The draft executive order was prepared by the government and is now being blocked by the committee of Timur Kharmay. Secondly, to introduce the funded pension plan funds that constitute more than 50%. We talk about companies like Ukrposhta, Ashadbank, Ukrgazbank, Ukroboronprom concern, Naftogaz, and others. These funds have to be open in order to be available not only for employees or founders of the company, but also participants of the second and third level of the pension system. If we do this preparation, then the second level of the pension funded pension system and the creation of the comprehensive system is the question of action. And it so happened that for the 15 years I've been working with pension as a topic, and just yesterday, when I've seen the first panel, I had a feeling how important these things are. I've always thought that they are important. I've read the classics that pension issues are one of the most important ones, but let me also tell you that these problems that people of respected age have, problems that they face in healthcare and gerontology centers, they can be resolved as soon as people have their individual pension accounts and contributions awaiting them. Then every gerontology center will have motivation that their patients live longer and happier because they are their customers. Because if they won't be customers for them, we don't know what awaits us in the future, because it would seem that they are not interested to have these patients as long as they can, because they only charge money from the same account. So I would like to thank the organizers of this first Ukrainian Pension Forum and all those who participated. Thank you. Vitaly? So far, second day, you are the ideal speaker because you've managed to speak in 10 minutes and you said a great thing. And let me rephrase. So our retirees, because they contribute to their pension, they become, instead of the burden, a lucrative customer, not only for geriatric care establishments, but for the entire country. And that's what we want to achieve. But what should the model look like of these contributions? Should it be state funds? Or, as Vitaly said, big industry must become the driver, and based on their non-state funds to kickstart this process, and then the second level and second tier will be attempted. And I'd like to address this question to Vitaly Lomakov, an advisor to the minister. Vitaly, what kind of comments you read yesterday where we started touching upon the topic of non-state pension funds, and people started saying, how can we trust them if we had the money from Soviet Union stolen? And these stereotypes, they still exist. People don't want to be standard Ukrainian retirees, but they are afraid to contribute for the future.
Thank you very much. You know, Vitaly made a really nice introduction for how much time do we have pension reform just on paper in Ukraine, and even on paper there are 3 levels existing. Yesterday there was a wonderful presentation of Ella Libanova, and how we can sum it up. If a sentence is made by the demography of Ukraine, by the existing solidarity system, that is a birth rate in Ukraine 2019, 7.4 babies for 1,000 population. Ukraine is in top 5 due to this number, and if we will have these levels of depopulation in the future, the consequences will be very bad. That's clear that existing system should be reformed, that we should provide accumulation level. Yeah, we are in this reform for 22 years, and from 2007 we were waiting for obligatory second level. Also, there are a lot of questions regarding this distrust, that they do not trust public pension funds, and trust is extremely important in this sense. And that's why I would like to show you that this trust issue, it's not just about pension, but it's about state institutions existing in Ukraine, National Bank of Ukraine, first of all, that should provide the stability of national currency. It doesn't mean that we need to come back to fixed rate. No, that's different. And also the forecast of money policy. On this slide, you can see very well the correlation of profitability of assets with some history, 15 years history, correlated with inflation level starting from 2017. Profitability of non-public pension funds is a bit higher. At least people are not losing money. We know what happened 2014, 2015, when we had foreign currency crisis. Surely there was a kind of turmoil. A lot of banks didn't survive it. National Bank as well lost a big portion of trust to finance credit system, and do we want it or not, it is reflected in the trust to other participants of this market, including pension funds. So we cannot forget about responsibility of National Bank for the stability of national currency and money policy, because without that we cannot provide second accumulation level of pension reform. On this slide you can see which benefits we might have if we had pension reform timely. I mean 2007 by timely. Because, you know, we are gonna ask about this huge deficit of pension funds, but it wasn't like that all the time. That time it was in proficit. It was a very right time to implement second accumulation level. Unfortunately, that time there was a lack of political will at country management, and now we can see the consequences of this decision. We have about 3.5 billion hryvnia in our fund. In Poland, our neighbors, they have $120 billion. It is practical GDP of the whole Ukraine. and forecast if Ukraine will introduce the second accumulation level. It's just one of the forecasts because there are different versions. We are going to have about 48.5 billion hryvnia. We can get it as a long-term investment resource, and we can invest state budget. For instance, we can become independent from our external creditors thanks to that. On the next slide, you can see very clearly the image existing information environment of Ukraine at the moment. Profitability. There is no place where you can invest your money. There is no stock exchange market in Ukraine, and investments are very small on pension funds. But even with this limited toolkit, we can see that for the last 3 years, profitability of non-public pension funds is the same profitable as deposits just in 1 year. It tells us that it can be efficient if we limit the number of tools. I told that in the response to those who tell there is no place to invest their money. No, that's not true. We can have this positive profitability on non-public pension funds. But let's think about the result. Where we will come as a state. That is the topic of my presentation, what state should provide for the quality provision of this accumulation level. First of all, the state should guarantee the safety of the funds in private funds, because we all know very well the situation in Russia some time ago when the state decided to solve their problems due to these pension funds. And also we can see an example of Poland that works very successfully and have $120 billion at the moment. And also, I don't think that we should think principles of migration policy in Ukraine. Alla Libanov told yesterday that it's not just purely Ukrainian problem, that it is a problem for the whole Europe, but Germany and some other countries compensate depopulation due to the right migration policy. But we do not discuss these issues at all. I don't know why, because it's extremely important. The next one. We need to understand the number of Ukrainian population. We don't know it so far. We don't know the quality composition of the Ukrainian population. For instance, Mr. Lyubchenko yesterday told that for every retired person there is one employed person who pays contributions and the one not employed. But is this number actual or not? I'm not sure in that. And to understand the quality composition of the population, the government should count them. In many countries, there is a legislative norm that every 10 years the population should be counted. It is, they do it from 70s. Unfortunately, we do not have this norm. We are always busy with manipulation, with digital counting of the population and other things. And also, when we understand the quality of the population, the categories and other factors, we will come to the minimum pension on the level of living minimum, and all the rest will be on the second accumulation level and third voluntary level. That's the only one option left for us. And those things that we think in Tretyakova's law draft, I cannot call them adequate because they spoil the whole idea of the second accumulation level. It is proposed to implement central administrators, central accumulation funds. There will be state institutions again, but we can see that their reputation in Ukraine for 15 years is not bad. I mean, non-public funds. The best one is the National Bank of Ukraine fund. Not the best, but not the most worse, let's say. They have about 60 assets. And it happened just because the state allowed National Bank in one legal entity to have these assets, to manage these assets, and some other functions. That's what we can have if we go from the laws that were written in the middle of 2000 years. In this case, we cannot react to any kind of risks, but as far as I understand, the situation was fixed, and now these funds started renewing the cost of its assets. So let's just introduce the second level and move forward. Thank you very much, Vitaly. So I will remind you, there was an advisor to the Minister of Finance of Ukraine, Vitaly Lomakovich. I liked very much how you say that there is no need to manage anything, and we have an example of Poland, where pensioners just accumulate their pension. But we lost just $7 billion in our system, but we could have it. And my next question is to Sergei Fursa, investment banker. How we could do it? For instance, right now we implement this second accumulation level and we start saving, we start trusting state institutions. These internal investments, could they compete with external borrowing? Would it be able to make these borrowings 2-3 times less? Because Ukrainians are scared by them, but Ukrainians are just scared by all of them, external borrowings, internal investments, because, they call them financial pyramid sometimes. Our Ukrainian economics is under-invested. That is a basic problem for the whole economics. Because let's look at the economics of every country of the world. It can grow just thanks to the investments. Investments are needed. And those money of pension funds that will be accumulating gradually, we need to understand it won't happen quickly, because accumulation needs accumulation. Just in 1 year, in 2 years, in 3 years, it won't be enough money. But surely it's better for the state to replace external borrowings by own borrowings, because state can manage hryvnia. It's easier this way. But to consider pension money just like a source of saving the state from devaluations, that's a crazy idea, because you kind of betrayed pensioners with this idea. Yeah, for the state it's not expensive, but for the pensioner it's completely different. We cannot play with that. Yeah, surely if we put them into state stocks, it is the best idea. But if the manager of these assets will be able to do it properly, the pension will be less. But where we could invest? Mr. Lomakovich told us there is no place to invest. Where we could do it, because investment and this reliability, it protects this money. It gives a guarantee of pensioners' protections. That's like an old joke about what came first, chicken or egg. There was some time when Ukrainian companies were entering Polish market because money was there. They came there for money of Polish pensioners. But, you know, for Polish pensioners, the investments in Ukrainian company didn't end well, but that's a different issue. Ukrainian companies are not interested because here there are no money, and we won't have this interest without money. But let's imagine there are a lot of money, and there are Ukrainian companies who would like to place their stocks or bonds or anything, and we will have win-win strategy. As in the world, there are a lot of companies, but no one is waiting for Ukrainian companies there. If some other company, retail or something else, would like to play by the rules, you know, this stock exchange market that we have in Ukraine at the moment it's everyone just want to forget it and to buy out their shares from this market because they don't like the game without rules. But there are a lot of mature Ukrainian businesses who need support. And Ukraine stimulates some things they should don't need stimulation. But if, for instance, we have money of Ukrainian investor, the company could be stimulated to go for transparency, to development, not to live as 100 individual entrepreneurs, but to organize business in such a way to have a vision for 20, 30 years ahead. It's not possible to calculate it at the moment, but it's possible to do it if we have money. And regarding favorable moments, the most favorable it was 20 years ago, because really we have deficit at the pension fund at the moment, and we need to take this money to cover this gap somehow. To put this money into accumulation accounts, we need to take this money from somewhere. What do you mean? We will need to save for the second level? Look, I didn't start working at the factory as many of people of Ukraine, but I did it in the pension fund of Ukraine 2005, and we were expecting for the pension reform. We were very optimistic about it. And after that, there was 2009, I remember, conference in Alushta, Crimea. Every year there was a conference. In 2011, there was a panel on pension reform, and we were expecting it. Yes, it will come very soon. But you know, I'm fed up of being optimistic. I will be optimistic when I see it finally, because it delayed so many times in Ukraine already, and it has a very negative impact of Ukraine, and Ukraine loses a lot of possibilities on that. And you know, we are utilizing one phrase very often. It's not time yet. Probably it is finally. You know, we can become pensioners ourselves, and still it will be not timely. Yeah, you know, if I would start in 2005, I would be fine with this accumulation level. Today, I would be sure I will travel the world when I retire. But there are people who are 22, 25 years old now, and in theory, they can become winners of these reforms. They might lose, or they might accept that they have different paths with this country. Thank you very much, Sergei. And you know, you told that the young people really can be responsible for their own life while waiting for the state to implement the second level. I know some young people, they about 22, 25 years old, they decided to put money themselves into non-public pension funds because they told, I'm not going to be poor as my grannies and granddads were doing. Because we had a look at that, we studied it. You know, this situation is very interesting because it's not, you cannot see it every day. Some young people understood that, yes, they can do it themselves. That's why I have the next question to Grigory Ovcharenko, who is the head of Council of Ukrainian Association of Non-Public Pension Funds. Grigory, my question to you is the following. Ukrainians do not trust banks. They cannot save and accumulate money. Lately, they cannot see stable political stations. They do not believe in international currency, but they want to have decent senility. So please explain us. That time when Soviet Union lost 60% of pension money, how successful is this model and how secure it is from the political changes?
Hello, and I would like to start by demonstrating you a small picture which I believe illustrates the reality of what's been happening. And there's no one who would be satisfied with the existing pension system. Everybody criticizes what pension fund does, and everybody's criticizing the government who wants to do something with the pension. So in this kind of environment, at least everybody should do something for themselves, because there are alternative tools for long-term contributions, starting from simple deposits, insurance companies, non-state pension funds that have been in Ukraine for more than 15 years. And currently, a little bit of statistics for you. There are 60 working non-state pension funds out, and among them there are famous state funds, also banking funds and private funds that provide non-state pension support. The total amount of them is 880 people who participate in these kind of programs. Several thousand of companies contribute for their employees certain amounts. The amount, the number of participants in this process are almost 1 million. It's quite a lot of people, and we could say that the system has been growing gradually. But if we look at the percentage, what is this percentage of the workable population? Working population is less than 10%, or up to 5% of those who are of productive age. That means 1 in every 20 is the participant in the system. And even less people, or almost 50,000, those who contribute for themselves, who accumulate contributions. So the question is, what's happening in Ukraine and why? Why Ukrainians seem to be incapable of contributing for their own future? What's wrong with us? And the question is that something is happening outside or beyond our comprehension. Of course, there are and there will be those who never will contribute to their pension. But there is also a huge number of people who are trying to do something. And the question is very important, why it's happening. So let me demonstrate what is happening currently. In our society, there are these paternalistic views that dominate, that the state, and it shows in the survey, 70% of Ukrainians believe that it's the state job to provide decent pension. So what do we do in this situation? Every third citizen only thinks that they should do something. The rest are just waiting. So every year we hear from the government and authorities that the state pension fund is the best and the most reliable. It provides everything, and you don't have to care about anything in the world. But that's not true. And finally, somebody dared to say the truth. Let's quit with the singing of the lies. So we have this big problem of financial literacy. Half of Ukrainians don't understand what is a complex percentage, and half don't know what state pension funds working. So how can you achieve anything in this kind of environment? Some say that there is no trust to the government. 67% distrust pension funds, but just the same percentage of people don't trust private and commercial banks as well. Some may claim that state banks are more reliable, but let's look at the statistics. The same situation with the trust. It's not much less. So the question, what to do? And one of the problems here is access to this kind of system. Unfortunately, again, according to the information that we have from the regulator, pension funds are only present with 10 regions in Ukraine. There is no opportunity to get to the non-state pension funds. Some people from smaller rural areas started thinking and started contributing to go to the city, open a deposit account or pension account, but they won't do that. And that's it. So what's happening over the last 15 years in the industry of non-state pension support? We are trying to resolve each of these specific questions, to increase trust, to increase financial literacy, to build infrastructure. And we forget about what? About the fact that every decade there's a financial crisis of smaller or bigger magnitude, but in this time there's the distrust in financial institutions doubles. So we're trying to increase this trust. Every decade something wrong is happening, and then we go back to the same opinion. So it's a vicious circle. So what can help? Of course, there are those who are against mandatory contributions, but only this kind of system provides the opportunity for consumers to have access to this accrual system. So let's start from the reverse direction. Everyone can have access. That's one thing. Even those who have opportunity to contribute 10 hryvnia, 30 hryvnia, they can do it. Financial literacy is spreading because when we contribute money, we look how it happens automatically. But when we see that it really works, then we can say that they would say it never worked before because I never participated in these programs. So that's where you have more understanding of what's happening. And in the end, we understand that only us, ourselves, we can start contributing to our own pension. There are those who would say no, there are negative examples. The best example is our neighbors, Poland. They introduced this system 15 years ago, and then they cut it. But we can see what problems they had, how Poland resolved them. They reassessed and rebooted the system from scratch. So we can, instead of wasting more time to understand what kind of problems we have, we might look at our neighbors and just copy what they've done and introduce the system. Okay. So I would like to address everyone who watches us on Liga.net and the pages of the International Charity Fund Let's Help. Please leave your comments. We would like to have your feedback. We would like to read how your opinion may change. Some say the speakers should remember Constitution of Ukraine, but no speaker violated the constitution. So my question to Taras Kozak, head and the president of Univer investment company. We're talking about the fact that not many companies there are where money can be invested. And when we say that we have to multiply money, we have to place that money somewhere. Do we have enough instruments? Thank you, and thank to the organizers of this forum for the wonderful speeches that gave an opportunity to people. What's this problem? Why the pension system we have is not very good, the solidarity system? And the third level, and we hope that these kind of events will happen on a regular basis, but we're talking not only about the 3-level or other model, is that it has to be improved constantly. We have to respond to the threats to improve the economic situation of our citizens. So the question of implementation is only the start. But we've been postponing it for 20 years, as my colleague said, and let's hope. I'm still optimistic, unlike Sergei. So I think we will finally do it, because everybody's supporting that, the parliament, the prime minister, the president. Nobody against. But there are people who are against it. I will tell you who they are. So the colleagues have already touched upon many issues. I will answer your question a little bit later, but let me comment something else. There is 3-level system of pension, but the world is moving forward, and the 3-level pension model is already yesterday's business. On the international level, the pension system is managed by the World Bank. It's a department of the IMF. And from the year 2000, they've been recommending the 5-tier pension system. First, second, and third levels are those that we mentioned: solidary, mandatory, and voluntary. But it's not enough. The World Bank recommends to all countries to introduce 2 additional tiers. First of all, the base level, the baseline. And the idea is that all citizens are eligible to a small fraction of guaranteed pension from the state. It's like 1,500 hryvnias in today's money. You can only buy bread and water and not more. So, but you've been living for 10, 20 years, you are eligible for a small basis. So we have this part as part of the solidarity level, but with the solidarity level, it's not typical. Solidarity level says the more you pay, the more you contribute, the bigger the ratio you have. So there's a lot of populism there, corruption there, deficits and stuff. So all the previous governments tried to reform the solidarity system, and it doesn't let it do it. Demographics show that only the solidarity level pension is not the kind of scheme that protects you from problems. So only together, the solidarity pension and the defined pension together can create or make our system much more sustainable, and such as the one that guarantees dignified pension. Another level is the 4th level, the so-called non-financial level, and it is about how to use the money that you have contributed when you retire. Geriatric care, foster care, or some preferential treatment and pricing for transport, access to important institutions. So convenient life. It's not enough to have enough money. You have to be able to use that money when you retire. And that's what the fourth level is about. From 0 to 4, it's 5 levels, a 5-level pension system. And although we are dreaming about the 3-level system, we have to look forward. We have to make it more transparent, and that means 5-tier pension system. Then some drafts of bill. There are several draft bills from the Committee of Securities. There are some requests from the government. There are some middle grounds, but I wouldn't say that we don't have to argue. We have to launch the second defined level. We have to start contributing, that it's clear that these contributed money start working for the future retirees, and at the same time these are investments for our economy. All of that postponing, nobody wins in the dragging of this situation for 20 years. So let's support that. I urge everyone, let's support some joint draft bill. We will never come to the option that allows for categorically judge either this or that. It's some kind of healthy mixture. So I would like to say that to all the MPs and authorities, let's push that stone forward, and then we tune it up as we go. Next question is threats. We've heard about threats, and our citizens and in all the questions and meetings, we hear a lot of concerns from Ukrainians. What concerns them? Why are they afraid of the pension system? So the first threat is distrust to both the state and fiscal sector. So I can tell you that the financial system is now recuperating quickly, starting from 2015, when finally the banks that were actually not banks but were corruption units that did money laundering and all kinds of bad stuff, those banks were pushed out of the market from 2015, 16, 17. This transformation led to the current situation where banking system in Ukraine is the most reliable over all the independence days. Yeah, we still live in the past. We remember those queues back in 2015 and 16 where deposits were a hard thing to get. But then in 2008, when the worst financial crisis happened and it would seem that no banks would work, Ukrainian banks gave the deposits back, and people started collecting those deposits for the first 2 weeks, but then after 2 weeks they started bringing the money back, and in 2 months after that the banks had more money than before crisis. Imagine, during crisis Ukrainians brought the money to the bank in hryvnia. And in 2020, the hryvnia deposits had grown by 23% in Ukraine. It's a crisis year. Banks are not falling, no catastrophe, and Ukrainians trust banks and they bring money to the banks. So the mindset starts shifting. There is understanding that, yes, banks have become reliable. Not all of the financial system, it has to be improved and treated. The National Bank now tries to harmonize the insurance sector, financial companies, and I'm confident that in a year or two we will be trusting insurance companies as well, and credit unions and leasing companies who will not, try to crook us out of our own money, or insurance that doesn't insure. So all of these things are now being treated, and I'm confident that it's going to be successful. How much money our pension system will get, or the economy will get, if the second level will be launched? You can calculate it easily. Today, the salary fund is 1.5 trillion hryvnias. All of the salary over the year is paid in the amount of 1.5 trillion. Now, if we start contributing 4% of that, as the draft bill outlines, that means that annually the contribution accounts of Ukrainians will accrue about 60 billion hryvnias. It's almost 2 billion euro. And that money for the economy, it's going to be an opportunity to finally start breathing again, start using that money for our own development. Because it's not just money that somebody has in the pocket or in the piggy bank, it's much more than that. It's going to be money in the white sector, legal sector, legally here, in banks, investment companies, pension funds, insurance companies, who want to be invested, and their future customers, retirement people will want for this money to be invested. So that means that the economy is open for this money. How open? Well, currently, if you know, if you have some experience in commercial sector, you know that the best chief senior accountant in the company is the accountant that can hide the profits. It's a joke, but there is part of truth. If the accountant can hide profits to avoid taxes, it's a great accountant, because that means the company will save more money. In a developed economy, it's a contrary. The accountants want to show as much profit as they can, because more profits, that means it's a profitable company, it means it's worth more. And by engaging new shareholders, they will pay less percentage and have more capitalization. So it's a capital-oriented way of thinking. We still need it. So when you understand that 60 billion hryvnia can hit the market annually, no less than 60, sometimes more, because 4% is not much. They need 8, 10, or 7. That's the number in a developed pension system. So 3 to 4 billion euros annually. That money will go to those companies that are the most profitable, the most interesting for investors, who don't hide profits but show this profit and share it with the shareholders. So our economy it will be becoming white. It will show profits, pay taxes, and it's good for all the future retirees. Because the growth of the budget allows to use that money for infrastructure projects, for bridge construction, etc. Everything that our cities need. And because of these pension contributions, the future retirees will win double. Other than solidarity level, they have additional second or third pension. Secondly, when the money works for the economy and they're invested back in the economy, that means the economy is growing. And the growth of the economy means that Ukrainians get benefits from better economy. Besides, there was a question where to invest that money that will have. The companies will become more white, but in small cities and rural areas where there are problems with potable water. In Ukraine, nobody drinks tap water, with some exceptions. In most European cities, you can just drink tap water and it's going to be clean. It's high-quality water. It doesn't smell, and you don't have to boil it. In order to have that kind of water in Ukraine, we need to change infrastructure of water pipes. We have to replace the rusty pipes for modern pipes, current modern purification systems. Who pays for that? City budgets don't have money to replace water pipes, because it will cost the annual budget, the entire annual budget. Where to get that money? And it's going to be cheap money. So just for that, you can use pension contributions. that will be invested for a slightly higher percentage than inflation rate, but it's reliable. Because the money, the city will not go anywhere. People continue living there and paying taxes, and that will be the future contributions. Whereas the residents will get right now, without waiting for 100 of years, they will get now a refurbished water pipelines and better life expectancy because they will drink better quality water. And of course, to invest only in Ukraine, it's difficult. Even with the municipal bonds, the companies that will sprout in a couple of years, there will be many more of them than now, but still, you cannot limit your investments by Ukraine only. Two reasons. First reason, we know that there are economic crises in Ukraine, there's war in the east, there are many more problems, corruption, etc. So that's why mandatory part, there should be a part in other countries, not only in Ukrainian currency, but foreign currencies as well. So hryvnia has been strong for 5 to 6 years now, 25 to 1 to dollar, and it doesn't look that it can devaluate soon, but anything can happen. And when you don't put all your eggs in the same basket, it gives you more reliability, more stability for these pension contributions. Doesn't matter which currency, dollar, euro, hryvnia, or other currencies, it's important for the profitability of pension contributions be higher than inflation rate in Ukraine. When people believe that if they contribute euro or dollars under the mattress, and that will be good for their retirement, let me remind you, in the Kiev, beginning of independence, 1991, what was the price of an apartment in the center? Some $10,000 to $12,000. What can you buy now for $12,000? Maybe some super small apartment somewhere in the rural area. So if you hadn't invested that money, but put it for the pension, you can no longer buy the same amount of stuff for the same money. So keeping the money under the mattress, it's not a way out. In hryvnia, not a way out. Everything devaluates. Investments for profitability that is slightly higher than the inflation rate. There's this complex percentage that we mentioned before, and it's interesting, if you have positive profitability higher than inflation rate, with time that increases the purchasing capability of your investments. And reliability of investment, do you need some guarantees? First of all, many citizens say that if it was the state guarantees, then I'm ready to invest that money for state bonds or something. What can I say? The state guarantees we've had many times. Soviet Union guaranteed, but then everything was stolen. Prime Minister's guaranteed, the government's guaranteed. Where are these people? They seem to be caring about us, but there's no money, there's no pension funds. So we shouldn't hope for state guarantees. No, of course. We're all adults. We understand that the state is not responsible. They don't guarantee anything. People who guarantee something today, they will be fired tomorrow and nobody is held responsible. How it works in the world? No state guarantees. No development country in the world has state guarantees. So how it works? This pension contribution works in the economy, and they are managed by commercial, non-state companies. But for them to be free from stealing that money, they built this huge ecosystem of organizations. Each of them have their set of functions, and they supervise their neighbor. So checks and balances. There's an administrator, which is an organization that talks to investors, the future pensioners, so that nobody gets robbed or ripped off. in their contributions. There is asset management group or company that selects the best options to invest these assets, either gold, municipal bonds, shares, state bonds. So they are, as analysts, they calculate what's more profitable in forecast, what will protect from disbalance or war or something else tomorrow. But asset management companies don't touch the money. The money resides at the bank. The asset management company gives the command and the bank is checking whether this command or whether this investment is allowed by the law or something else. And there's another side here, the auditor who controls everyone, the pension fund and the administrator and the bank. There is also the supervisory board at the regulator, the National Committee on Securities and Stock Market. They issue licenses or revoke the licenses because they are badly managing something. There's a national banks that also is controlled by the bank according to the law, so that there's a decent program and there are no ways for manipulation. So in general, in the system in Ukraine, we have the best world practices of pension funds. And to wrap up, I can give you a number. We have a number for 2019, $41.5 trillion. So it's $41,000 billion. So it's pension contributions of 23 biggest pension systems in the world. It's huge money. It's about half of the world GDP. No state or all states together can guarantee that amount of money. So this amount works for the future pension contributions for the retirees in the 20 countries of the world, and they work for these retirees. If we continue using the best world experiences, the 3-level, the 5-level pension system, and we will continue doing what the best countries in the world do, I think our retirees will be as rich as European ones, and we have to launch it as soon as possible, and then wait for it to be accumulated. Thank you, Vitaly. Taras. And so we round and round, and we we run in circles. Pensioners can become potentially the best customers for various service providers, but we still seem to be running in circles. And you announced that this pension forum is happening here thanks to these professional speakers and experts who understand how to answer these questions, how to provide dignified old age. This is why we designed the pension strategy of Ukraine. And we will send these outcomes to Ukrainian government and our ideas how to change and reform pension system in Ukraine. The email to send your ideas to, idea@pensionforum.org.ua. So send your ideas and let's work together on the model of the dignified retirement in Ukraine. Thank you to all the participants in this third panel. This is the second day of our forum, and before we proceed to the fourth panel, let's see a video. And if you confuse numbers, breathe out, because we will be inspiring you for the better retirement in Ukraine.
Subscribe to Granny 2.1 channel. Good day. Yes, hello. What's your name? My name is Nina. Okay, Nina. How did you get there? My children made me a gift certificate, Bodo. And today I'm gonna jump for the first time. Are you ready? Of course. Did you want it? They asked me, what do you want for your birthday? And I thought what I was missing in my life. I had a dress. My husband can take me somewhere. But parachute jump, my husband is not gonna get it to me. I'm sure you will like it. Good luck. Vovchik, all the best wishes from the height of 4,000 meters. Your granny is here and is about to jump. Come on, let's go faster. Hop in. Cool. It was cool. Try it, everyone. Thank you. Vitaly, Sasha, Karina, Natasha. That was great, friends. I liked it. Nina, perfect pose, just perfect when parted, when jumped. Granny 2.0 rules. Subscribe to Granny 2.0 channel. Feet higher. I did it. Cool, thank you. It was terrific. I did it. Hooray. I landed. I was flying. Hooray. So, Granny 2.0, the next stage is her training course and she jumps like an athlete. It will be Granny 3.0 then. Cool, thank you. It was great. There's simply nothing to complain about. Thank you. The army says it has completed. No comments. Nina Droz is 56 years old, and you know she has all the reasons to be that joyful. That was a gift for her birthday. What for do you need dresses if you can just make your dream come true? And these kind of examples give us a hope that we'll have more pensioners like this one, joyful, interested in life, who want to do something new. And in the final panel of Ukrainian Pension Forum, we will discuss the culture of the senility and its communication to the society, because we need to introduce this culture as well. Let's talk about this evaluation formulation from the very beginning. Let's talk about ageism. Let's talk about stereotypes that we haven't in contemporary Ukrainian society. I would like to represent you the participants of the fourth panel. Petro Chernyshov, who is the member supervisory board of pharmaceutical company, will be online. But here with us are Lydia Zadovska, who works with partners in charitable foundation Let's Help. Also 1+1 Media with us, represented by HR Director Olga Musika and PR Director Tatiana Tregobchuk. Welcome to our forum. Also, Galagan Natalia is with us, director of the branding agency Galagan, And also Irina Baranenko will be with us. She's a co-founder of charitable foundation Starenki. Irina will join us later. And now I would like to start our conversation with Petro Chernyshov, who is a well-known businessman, and also he is respected as a person headed the big Ukrainian company. He's a role model for the youth of career aspirations. Can you hear me? Yes, we can. Let's discuss not your ambitions, not your career, but your senility. Did you start planning it? And what do you think? Do I ask rightly? How shall we teach us Ukrainians to start planning this senility, to tell them that it's not humiliating? You know, I was watching the forum. Now I'm looking at the participants of the panel, and you know, you can discuss personal planning of senility just with me within this panel, because with them there is no reason to discuss it. Probably I'm the only one who is older than 50 and who really can start thinking about pensions, where to spend it, how to save money for it. You know, I didn't know yet where I'm going to spend my retirement. But the second question is how to save money. I think I'm ready on this one. Probably I'm not a common citizen of Ukraine. I was managing large Ukrainian companies for a long time. It allowed me to make money, to save money. But I was listening to your previous panel, and Taras was telling about happiness that will come soon with the banks, with leasing companies, insurance companies, how it will change. Can I be pessimistic here? Surely you can, because you know, I didn't have time to ask a question to Taras. But I had a question that with the second level of pension, all the problems will be solved. I had a feeling that everything in Ukraine depends on pension saving. You know, Taras is very smart. He is an economist. He's also the owner of investment company, and surely he needs to to attract more funds into his company. That's why he was telling us about bright future and wonderful perspective of Ukraine. I can understand his reasons. But me, thanks God, I don't need anything from that. You know, I'm the member of the board of a pharmaceutical company, and probably I can sell here something else, but that's not what I'm gonna do right now. But being serious, yeah, okay, there are no banks in this map anymore. But who shall think about pension at the moment? Probably some Ukrainian, 30 years old. He is on his first job. Most probably he has a wife, probably without kids, and he shall start thinking about it. He will get retired in 35 years, and he should find some place, foundation, trust, bank, I don't know what kind of institutions, that he will start making money contributions every month. And in 30 years, it would be possible for him to get more money, to get his money from this institution. But let's imagine common Ukrainian who is thinking, what's going to happen to this country in 30 years? And here I have terrible thoughts. And the reason is very simple. So far, law enforcement system, judicially including, is not working in Ukraine. What does it mean? That during these 35 years, some bad people can redistribute some good businesses, including those investment businesses, that will accumulate money for this young 30 years old Ukrainian. So this money will be just redistributed. We can imagine a lot of Ukrainians who are 30 years old who will start investing money into some company, and in 30 years this company will be very nice with large money in some Ukrainian bank, but will this bank survive for 30 years? That's a big question. Someone might want his company. That's also possible in Ukraine. Will he be protected by judicial system? I think not, at least not the one that we have at the moment. That's a problem, that law enforcement system doesn't work in Ukraine. That's one of the most important reasons why we cannot trust Ukrainian accumulation system for 35 years ahead. That's my position, and I'm ready for a question about myself or this system. Okay, we had a bit of criticism from you. I wouldn't call it pessimistic. It's a realistic view. And you made a mistake. You told that I'm the only one who can plan my senility because I'm over 50. But you know, you should start at 25. I have some people I know that 25 years old and they're saving money for their retirement already. I was surprised a lot because for me there are like ideal models. Yeah, I understand we have problems. The system doesn't work as it should. So you should provide your retirement yourself. Probably you were just lucky with the people you know. I have just 2 people like that from all my environment. You know, this coronavirus crisis, it showed a lot of new problems, and also it showed that 32% of Americans do not have money saved to live for more than 3 months at their own account. We know that a lot of people lost their jobs due to this crisis. Some countries paid them, some countries not. But can you imagine 1/3 of Americans do not have money to live for 3 months? So they live from salary to salary. You know, in this situation, even if they want, they have no possibility to save money. And I think that in Ukraine, this number is higher. Yeah, you know, Petro, we had this kind of poll, and there was it was 1.5 to 2 months for Ukrainians. A lot of people were able to live without salary just for a month. You know, on this panel, we are talking about cultural senility and our ageism, stereotypes. So what do you think? Does state should stimulate employment of people over 45, 50? And you know, I'm telling you some reasonable age, but in our countries there is a risk do not find a job being that adult. So what should we do with stereotypes like that? You know, my position is very simple. When state starts regulating something, giving benefits, so on and so forth, the state will bring more harm than good. We all know that we have norms for the employment of disabled people, and we all know what's going on in Ukraine. Company just employs some people on paper the employees, they give some minimum salary, but these people don't even go to their workplace. Is it a good example of regulation? No, it's not. If you really want to help, if you really want retired people to be employed, you should tell us that you are not gonna decrease state pension and the salary doesn't matter. that's what will stimulate people to find a job. Petro Chernyshov is a kind of typical businessman and entrepreneur, because this category of people are saying that the state shouldn't bother. Please do not help, do not stimulate, do not regulate, just do not bother. Yeah, we do need minimum regulation, but every regulation, unfortunately, has positive and negative results. And very often we are not thinking about negative results. But it is very important. If you provide some kind of benefits, you will get some artificial employment of people, because company will be interested in the state benefits. But now people live longer. People over 60 years, they can make a lot, they can do a lot. Probably minimum regulation will help, but please do not try to introduce some tax incentives or any other kind of incentives, especially in such a poor country as Ukraine. And my last question for you, because we are going to discuss stereotypes at this panel. What about you? Did you encounter any stereotypes about old age, and how should we overcome them? Surely that society is not, some number of average people. I'm just asking you, Petro Chernyshov, how are you going to prove that retired people are not just people who are not needed by the society anymore, but they are valuable, they have a lot of experience, they have a lot of positive things that 30 years old people don't have. In Ukraine it's not easy. And why? Because retired people, due to their age, they got education in Soviet Union. And when we say that the experience is important, let's not forget that they got the education during Marxism doctrine, and a lot of things they know from universities are now perceived as a bullshit. Let's not forget about it. That's not the same as it in the Western countries, because for many years they have equal values there. But returning to the retired people, social initiative is very important in many countries. I mean, people who start some movements, some societies. And for instance, in Ukraine, there is a charitable foundation. It is called Loop. And I didn't just talk to Kari Korogotsky, who founded it, but also I was speaking to common people who are standing behind this movement. In summertime, for instance, we had a project together. 10 retired people were isolated, and we brought them food and medicine. It was myself, there were my friends helping me, and I was impressed Жителюб's employees' attitude to life. It is just some common initiative. It's very light, but our state has some heavy and stupid solutions very often. But if we look at the common Ukrainians, they just do because they're passionate about it, they care. And the same is with Ms. Bondarenko also. Yes, there are a lot of people who can tell about the experience. Petro, thank you very much. For these 13 minutes, you just criticized the state in the issue of old age, and normal people can do more than the state. Thank you very much. And regarding Marxism doctrine, yeah, it's not valuable anymore, but the foundation of values is from childhood. No. Let's just forget about Marxism. Yes, that's exactly what I told, that Marxism ideas are not valuable anymore. Okay, between the generations of the adults and youth and old people, it is very important to have bridges between them, because all of us are different, but we need to change. It's very interesting for us to combine the experience and energy of generations. And how to do it? I will ask experts on working with partners of the charitable foundation Let's Help, initiator of the first Ukrainian Pension Fund, Lydia Ozadovska. Thank you very much. You know, I'm so worried now because it is the first event like that, and also I had a mentor, Mr. Alexander, who helped me to get ready for my presentation. He lives in one of the geriatric institutions of our fund, and he has very cool experience, many years of experience in journalism. And for me, it was a wonderful opportunity to use his knowledge, his experience to transfer his thoughts to you, and I hope that will become a part of the strategy that will help us to create some new generation of Ukrainians, happier and more respectable to elderly people. That's very good word, respect. Yes, you're right. That's one of the key messages of Let's Help Charitable Foundation, respect to elderly people. Unfortunately, we are losing our positions in these issues, and we need to get together to return the value of elderly people as a key part of the society. Here there are some very important aspects, and I'm very glad to see other participants here, because I will need their helps to make our grannies and granddads valuable again. I mean, it depends a lot from communication from all of us into society. Yes, we can just say, as Petro did, to criticize the state, but it's not about the state. It's about what we put into our activities, what we are doing, what example do we set for children and youth. What for we are doing something every day? How do we talk to our friends and family? All that is done to make elderly people valuable again. They have so much experience, so many values, and we need it, and we start doing it now. We need to involve elderly people into volunteering initiatives, to involve them as mentors to different areas, starting from policing and finishing with some journalist materials. You know, they're very happy to share their knowledge and experience, and they love feeling needed. That's the most important for them, to see they are needed by the society, and that's what we can give them. But what about Mr. Chernyshov words? And if they will start sharing Marxism ideas, do they feel what young people need? Can they separate these high ideas from the valuable experience that really can give to the young people? You know, the time we are living now
Рівень
is
спілкування, так, рівень емпатії між поколіннями, він дуже простий, дуже досяжний.
when the level of empathy, the level of communication between generation is very special, and elderly people, first of all,
Як це сказати?
I don't know what to say.
Так, у цьому спілкуванні
Elderly people need this communication because they want to transfer their knowledge and experience.
їхня справа, так, їхні ідеї будуть жити тільки тоді, коли
They understand their ideas will survive only if they seed them into the heads of younger people.
Ми, якщо ви раптом тільки щойно приєдналися, можете трошки промотати потім на початок по завершенні цієї
So what I want to tell our audience on this stage, you should come back to the beginning of our panel. It's the beginning of the second day when elderly people were telling how much things do they have they would like to share with younger generation. That's why Lydia is talking about bridges between different generations. But I know that your foundation, Let's Help, have a lot of projects where you are doing that, right? Yes, exactly.
нам необхідно формувати цінність.
We understand that we need to formulate the value of elderly people, and we need to start from the younger generation. That's why one of our programs is mini volunteers.
Щось не працює, ребята.
I cannot get it fixed.
Програма включає в себе декілька напрямків.
Program includes a few directions.
Має важливе значення.
Every one
тому
of
що ми
those is important because we
серед дітей.
can involve different age categories, even children. One of the participation formats is the possibility to write a letter to grannies and granddads, to geriatric institutions,
І це можливо відтоді,
to
відколи
talk to
дитина
them,
вже навчилась там малювати, писати перші
and
літери, вона може це
even
успішно робити.
3-4 years old children can start doing it. That's a very
Молодші вікові групи
good case how we can activate even the youngest age groups and how to involve them into real-life projects. Also, we have a workshop of good deeds when children can
поробки, які вони роблять у школі,
give
дитячому
their
садку,
arts
з
and
батьками,
crafts
для того, щоб ці маленькі подарунки гріли
to
бабусі,
elderly
дідусів у
people
геріатричних закладах,
because they mean
так?
a lot for someone living in geriatric institution. Grannies love these presents a
На
lot.
самому видному місці
You
кожного
can
дня
see them
ці роботи
everywhere and they look at them
нагадують їм
every
те, що
day.
вони потрібні, те, що про них
And
пам'ятають,
these
так? Це дуже важливо.
presents remind them they are needed. Also, within this program, we have joint concerts. We are going joint visits to museums, barbecues, when grannies can talk to mini volunteers to share with them their life stories. You wouldn't believe how many life stories they have and how happy they are to share them with our mini volunteers. For 5 years already, we are organizing these trips,
І в нас вже є багато напрацювань.
and we have a lot of outcomes already.
Колосальні
We understand that thanks to the huge support of the society,
необхідну підтримку, яка допомагає
we
нам виховувати,
receive
в наших
the
молодих
support
поколіннях
that
так,
allows
увагу до
us
старшого покоління.
to
Розуміння
seed empathy
важливості
in our
бабусі,
mini
дідусів.
volunteers, understanding the importance of elderly people.
За 5 років в нас було вже
Within 5 years, we had 40 trips like this one. We have staff
маленьких волонтерів,
of 80 mini volunteers who are visiting elderly people in geriatric institutions and nursing homes every week. Unfortunately, during lockdown, it's not possible, and we can see how much elderly people miss them. And not just them, many volunteers miss them at all. A lot of parents, a lot of children are asking us all the time when we can go to them again. That's what we are waiting for. We are dreaming about the first trip after lockdown. Let's hope it will happen very soon.
Не можу не поділитися з вами теплими світлинами, які зроблені.
Also, I would like to share with you warm photographs that were made during these trips,
Бабусям, дідусям, дітям.
for you to understand how much does it change the mood of these grannies, how important is this process for everyone. They paint together, they cook together, they have some kind of crafts together. It doesn't matter what they do together, the most important is to do it together.
Сказати, хто отримує більше радості та насолоди від цього спілкування, мені здається,
I cannot even tell you who enjoyed more, elderly people or kids.
Найважливіше, що дідусі, бабусі дуже чекають на волонтерчиків, так?
You know, grannies are waiting for many volunteers all the time. We can see how important in this program for them. We understand that granny and granddads should feel needed all the time, no matter what. All these meetings are very awaited. And it's important for adults, for kids, and I have video to let you understand how important it is, and that's true.
Ліда, можна продовжувати.
Оп.
Ось це ж не абсолютно не вимушені, не вигадані емоції.
Yeah, these emotions are true. That's cool. Yeah, you know, that's real magic. I don't know how to explain it. I just want to invite you to join us. You should feel it yourself, and you will understand it after you feel it, because really, you know, you look at it and it looks fantastic, but it's not like that. That's real life. That's how real life looks like. Our main goal, and we achieved it because we got positive results from this communication in both age groups. And also, it's very good for the young people and good mood at the elderly people. That's why we are proposing to make the program, to scale up the program mini volunteers. We are ready to give it to the state to make it national. In every kindergarten, in every school, parents and kids can become the members of this program and visit geriatric institutions in their regions, because we need as many as possible grannies and granddads to feel needed.
So I think Alexander, who helped you prepare this intervention, should be proud, because despite all the anxiety and stage fright, maybe you wanted to be very precise in the description of what you are doing. You don't have to worry. You deliver the main ideas, and it's a tool that the state can use. And we are going to continue discussing the issue of ageism, and this is the last panel of the first Ukrainian Pension Forum. Ageism means discrimination of a person based on age, in formal or informal spheres of life. Maybe only a few people have heard about it in Ukraine, but we're talking about toxic things in our life, because the stereotypes are just an inertia of our mind. Regardless of your age, you are entitled to dignity and better quality of life. We all deserve that. And 1+1 Media has recently conducted an interesting survey that reflects the perception of people of retirement age, their perception of themselves. So the idea is, regardless of how old you are, if it's about ambitions, goals, objectives, and dreams, the only thing that's important is the fire in your eyes and the wish to change the world. So that's the mode, that is what that drives you. So we've seen Nina Droz, who jumped with the parachute for the first time. That's where you can forget about your age. So Olga Tatiana from 1+1 Media, please tell us about this survey, because it's unique, and I'm confident that in the end you will say that we're ready to share this study with the state. Let them use it. So the floor is yours. Yeah, we have an inspirational video we want to show, and then we'll discuss more serious matters.
1+1 Media Group connects with over 20 million Ukrainian television viewers daily. As a responsible company, we advocate for openness and respect to every individual, raise awareness of social issues, and take a stand against any form of discrimination. Once we were approached by Larissa, a 65-year-old lady who had experienced age discrimination by employers and the society. We asked Larissa's peers and Ukrainians from other age groups what they thought about ageism. The survey showed that every other Ukrainian in their 50s had some experience of age-related discrimination, while every third respondent had low self-esteem and no hope of future self-fulfillment. The bottom line is 50% of Ukrainians tend to think there is no life after 50. International and domestic experts maintain that many older Ukrainians suffer from self-discrimination, as social stereotypes and lack of widely known stories about success after a certain age make them write themselves off and abandon hope.
Поламати стереотипи і знищити дискримінацію.
Ми беремо на
To break
роботу людей
stereotypes
старших за 50 років.
1+1 Media set out to help Larissa and hundreds of thousands of Ukrainians like her to regain their self-esteem and pursue their ideas. That is how the brand of 1+1 Media as an employer grew into the project Forget About Age. Through real-life stories of Ukrainians who carry on with their self-fulfillment even in their advancing years, we inspired their peers to forget their age, to look for a job of their dream and send us their resumes. 40 older Ukrainians with impressive backgrounds in music, literature, science, media, business, fashion industry and other fields shared their success stories, as well as their experience of being confronted with ageism and how they coped with it.
Мені всього 75 років. Я ще й досі катаюсь на роликах.
Мне 64 года. Я объездил весь мир, изучая виноделие.
Я розпочала свою акторську кар'єру в 60 років.
Physical age is nothing scary, and it can be beautiful. To get this message across, we staged a large-scale photo show, which was attended by over 10,000 visitors and featured on our TV news, watched by more than 2 million viewers. To expand the pool of candidates and raise awareness about 1+1 Media as a company where anyone can make it, regardless of their age, we offered Larissa and her peers to take part in a pilot training program for older people and received more than 1,800 applications with video resumes. The finalists joined 1+1 Media in 8 areas related to creating content. They got scholarships, received training, work with their mentors and perform even better than their younger colleagues. Within the campaign Forget About Age, over 1,000 publications with a total coverage of 100,000 have been produced at different information platforms, as well as over 20 news stories with a 10 million coverage and 10 editions of the special project Breakfast After Breakfast with a coverage of 300,000 viewers. Overall, due to our project, 11 million people raised their awareness about age-related discrimination. The project is not meant to prove that after a certain age, life only begins. The key message is that as you grow old, life does not end. It's time to forget about age, because age is no barrier to success.
Отже, з нами сьогодні HR-директор.
So we have HR director and PR director of 1+1 Media company. They've just shared this video and they will tell you all about this survey that founded this Forget About Age. I hope we inspired you with this video and we'll tell you more what it means for us. First of all, let me tell you that the principle of equal opportunities within the corporate culture of 1+1 Media. For 2 years, we systemically approach the issue of ageism and labor discrimination in general. We launched the project Forget About Age. This is a large-scale program of countering ageism. Before we launched this project, together with InfoSapiens, we have conducted a survey. And the survey about, this is the survey that started this project. And it shows that our society has lots of stereotypes. A stereotype like only until 40 years old you can be creative in anything, or that there is such an age after which a human being cannot learn a new job or get a new business or new competencies, and they say that it's 50-56 years old. I'll pass the floor to Tatiana, my colleague, who participated in this survey, and she will give you more details about the results. Hello, thank you for the invitation. Thanks to the colleagues and partners who we worked together for 2 years. And let me also point out that Nina Drost is ambassador of this fight against ageism. She was in this video, she was in the internship program, and thanks to these people, these examples, this story can move forward and continue inspiring others. But talking about numbers, why we decided to do that? In order to start this project, when we thought whether we dramatize it, we blow the problem out of proportion, and we surveyed Ukrainians for more than 1,000 respondents, and what the study showed, that 70% of respondents of age 50 plus believe that self-realization, it's too late to self-realize after 50. So what is the age that it's too old? When you're too old to change something, job or employment or creative endeavors. 43% respondents believe that age has big impact on the ability of a person to solve tasks creatively, to change, to adapt to new situations. external challenges. About each one in every three respondents knows about singular instances where, because of age, people were discriminated against by the employers, by society, youth, peers, and so on. So senior respondents say more about these instances, as we say, the people of elegant age. And we were discussing, by the way, how do we call this kind of group of people? We talk about people that they are senior, they are an elegant age, and that's what we decided to call them. And I've heard some mentions of that term in these discussions. So these respondents know more about these instances of discrimination. 49% respondents know about this age discrimination at work, and 23% of the respondents have personal experience of ageism or age discrimination when they were denied work or denied promotion or career advancement, not because of their professional skills and qualities, but because of their age. And if we sum it up, what's the problem that we've outlined? Then the society has this established stereotype that people of elegant age are not non-creative. 43% believe that creative jobs is not possible after 40. And then there is job discrimination from employers, and then there's self-discrimination. Psychologists also say about that. They say that through this self-perception that some of the people they know face some problems, I will not try. I will just sit at home, get my pension, get my paycheck, or some assistance from my relatives. And yeah, that's the stereotype. They've heard a bad story somewhere and they decided to just let it go. Just wait for the state to give them something. And that's what Mr. Chernyshov said, that people of the elegant age, they mostly have this Soviet mentality. And that's where the whole story originates from, about the burden, that you have to be a burden on your state, that the state has to provide to you this and this and that, and you just can sit at home and do nothing. And also the lack of faith in themselves, because through discrimination they lose faith in themselves, they lose the motivation, and only singular instances show you a success story. Unfortunately, that's the dominating opinion. And we are ready to share the results of our survey, because we understand that it's a strategic platform that can be the foundation for later stages if the communication and changes in the public opinion is another direction of work for this platform. So what went next in our campaign? That's what Olga will tell you. Yeah, we started from ourselves. We looked at how many people of elegant age are our employees. For me, the motivation was that elegant age starts from 49. And we have 15% of them. And most of them work in the company for decades, 25 years. And they bust all the stereotypes and all the myths that the survey tells you about. They're pitching ideas, they're very creative, they participate in the corporate events, and they are real ambassadors of our company's brand. And also we have analyzed the number of resumes that the candidates of elegant age sent to our open vacancies. The resumes, there are many resumes, there are thousands of them that we receive, and it constitutes only 5%. So we believe that it's very important to draw attention of other employers that you have to review more of these candidates for vacancies, because the labor market is getting older, it's not getting younger. And that served for us as an important push forward. So this is how we founded this project, Forget About Age. And we understand that the root of the problem is discrimination itself, discrimination from employers, the lack of faith in themselves, and the stereotype that dominate in their mindset. Because sometimes, you know, the younger people tell to the older people, why are you going there? Are you crazy? You're too old for this. And we realized that we can impact the situation by the following action. By telling stories in different formats, stories of people who achieved success in senior age, and exposing discrimination cases. As a media, we can do that, opening our doors for those who want to change something for the better, changing how this can be done. So joining around themselves different experts and people that share their mindset. What we're doing now, talking about this, communicating this to others, passing our knowledge on to others. And as a powerful media holding that keeps talking to more than 20 million people daily. So what we did, what's part of this campaign? First of all, we launched a social ad about job placement and employment. It's a video that we can share. And part of this video was represented in a video. So it's about the fact that there should be no discrimination and ageism when you are hiring. We launched a series of success stories with famous Ukrainians, successful entrepreneurs, and also just regular people, with employees at the 1+1 Media, Andriy Zaplienko, for instance. Among our heroes, there were Ostap Stupka, Oleg Skripka, Natalia Kar, who at 60 years he became a model. Vladimir Haryatsky, Anatoly Tlantjuk, Pavlo Zebrov, Alla Kudlai, and many others. Many other heroes, and we continue to talk to them because, of course, because of the pandemic, we cannot do it. We cannot continue doing it like we did before, like doing photo shoots with interviews, but we hope we get back to this format. And also there's expert interviews. We questioned HR community. We talked to psychologists, sociologists, international speakers and experts. Everything I'm talking about is available on our website. And then what was the most interesting, and what Oля will tell you about, is an experiment internship program. If the person did something in one way, they could come to us and learn how to do it in a different way. So yeah, we launched an experimental internship program, and we've selected 14 candidates. The selection lasted a couple of months, and we received 1,800 applications. We have a simple internship for the youth, and one of the requirements is to send in the video resume. We thought that we should keep it, and we were so surprised. All these candidates did send in their video resumes. Men were less active, therefore our interns mostly were ladies, so we selected 19 candidates in different departments, so it lasted for 2 months. They received scholarships, and we designed our own curriculum. We have the media school as professional trainings for the market. They conducted this training program for these interns, and it was very inspirational. They were represented in different departments. Like you can see who were our interns. One of the interns, she participated at the Tatiana's department. Can you tell us more? Yeah, in our Department of Corporate Social Responsibility, there was an intern who teaches, so she could see how in big business like social projects can look like, the green office, electrical, so environmental concerns and so on. So she has helped us a lot, and she also changed and adapted her teaching plans according to this new experience. And also there was one more intern She was a copywriter, and she was writing stuff for social networks. So she requalified, and from now on she could have created these call to action messages. So she adapted quite well. And as far as I understand, in one of the departments, she's a freelancer. So you probably were inspired by Robert De Niro and his film. Maybe you have a reality show in the future. So, yeah, it's an interesting thing. We have a couple of pictures from these events, from our graduation evening. All received diplomas. So we did this program. They are not dissimilar from our regular internship program. They could have seen how it looks from the inside and take something. So the job placement was not the goal in itself. We wanted to inspire that age is not a limit. You can not necessarily have job employment. You can try and learn a new profession in your profession right now, or change your life radically and start something completely new. I'd like to ask Ola, so you said that people of elegant age send you 5% of resumes. So they put barriers in their own way, right? Yeah, but out of these 5%, are there any professional people? Or is it just people who have thought about themselves for too long? Are they really professional? No, that's not depending on the age. Since this is an important topic and you all know about it, people want to get on TV. So we have a percentage of non-professional resumes, but it doesn't mean whether it's aged or dependent or not. So we were so surprised that only 5% of this age sent us resume. So you're using this project to bust stereotypes. So thanks to 1+1, they've become stars, and thanks to you, you break stereotypes. And yeah, we're trying to draw attention of other employers. We share our experience, share our successes. Then the labor market is getting older, and we have to pay attention to the candidates of elegant age just as well as others. So, yeah, this is how we described our stories. It's not just out of nothing. We have also a project about ideas and people. We talked about our employees who have their own profession name. We decided not to invent anything, just like an internship program, to showcase the ideas of this program and to use the stories of our heroes as a narrative. And when we talk about communication, when we talk about what we have achieved, we have coverage of millions of people because we did stories on the internet, on TV. We continue to keep our social network up, although there's no internship at the moment because of the pandemic, because it doesn't work remotely so well. But we continue to change the public opinion in this regard. We continue to keep our social network working, to interview people. We have many partners, and Kyivstar was participating in this panel discussion. Together with them, we did a special project for the breakfast at 1+1, connecting the generations, and we're very much inspired by being able to find like-minded people in what we do, and more companies get together and share this internship franchise, and to tell that it's not so scary. It is responsible. but you can do it in any company, anywhere, and you can achieve great results with this. So that's it. We can wrap this particular intervention. There are a lot of people who watch this stream right now on LigaNet and Let's Help. They're asking, so what are you suggesting? If I'm just sitting at home unemployed, we talk about changing the mindset of people, how to change approaches. Before you are offered something by 1+1 Media, you have to understand 5% of resumes, that's the percentage of brave people of elegant age who you ready to work with. Don't be based in stereotypes. Just walk forward. If you need work, if you want to live, you're interested to live, just do it. You never know whether you'll become an intern at 1+1 Media or you'll become a TV host of the media holding. Next, I want to remind you that, of course, the pandemic has become an unexpected trigger for our new reality. It changed our regular way of living, and for people of elegant age, it just made them even more helpless. And even the funds who started before, they have to streamline their work. So co-founder of the charity fund Starenki, Irina Baranenko, is with us. Irina, welcome. Hello and good evening. I'm very happy to be with you, albeit virtually, but participate in this very important forum. Thank you for invitation. Let's help. I like the whole topic of happy retirement, and I wanted to showcase what we do. I represent a project, a social project, Starenki. It's a charity volunteer initiative, and I wanted to tell you, for starters, a couple of words, what we are, what we do, and then show you our experience, how we manage to involve people into helping the retired. First of all, it's a systemic charity foundation. We registered it back in 2017, and we offer systemic assistance to elderly who were, due to various reasons, left alone, and they live on a minimal pension. So we buy provender for them and utensils for them, we bag them and we distribute them. But what's important, that our foundation as a subject appeared even earlier, even before a charity fund and volunteer initiative. And we believe ourselves, first of all, we are a volunteer initiative, especially because more than 70% within our team are volunteers who work without remuneration. The co-founders of these projects are also volunteers. So the mechanism of what we do, distribution of provender and utensils, for a year, in a year, about 200 volunteers join in to help us distribute it. Why is it important that it's a youthful initiative? Historically, about 90% of all of our contributions, prior to that 70, now 90, those were donations from individuals. Just a classic fundraiser. This year we have 2 grants already, 2 grant program, and statistics has changed a little bit, but in essence, the engagement of people around assisting together to people of elegant age, that's the foundation of our initiative. So without volunteers, without donors, there wouldn't have been this project. So before the forum, we didn't think about what is our success formula. How can we engage people in this? And thanks to the participation in the forum, thanks to the preparation, I have reassessed our long way forward. And I think in this way, that's where we see the mystery and the secret, how we engage so many people to this issue. So let me share you a short version of what we did. So the first element in this formula is some idea that resonates with people. In 2014, I wrote a post on Facebook where I shared my personal emotions, that terrible condition of the elderly. My page was not so popular, but I was so surprised that so many people responded. Friends of my friends, and less familiar friends wrote to me. I'm ready, they said, what do we do? And honestly, I did not understand back then what do we do with this. But it became clear to me that it seems that not only I am concerned about it, and this problem resonates with many, many people. Gradually, a group of people, ladies, got together as an initiative group, and we didn't know what to do with it. But then we continued thinking about it. How do we build this mechanism which would allow people to easily join in and help? So we understood on one hand that there are hundreds of people who want to help, potentially very busy people who have their job to take care of, their family to take care of, but wanted to help. But on the other hand, there are thousands and dozens of thousands of the elderly who need help, and we had to come up with a mechanism that would make them meet. And we realized that it's going to be as simple as possible, because helping should be easy enough to make it accessible. And so we decided to create a mechanism so that we can make a donation by pressing one button on the telephone, and so that it's easy to distribute our grocery bags, that it's been bagged and you only have the route to follow. You just join in right now, talk to the elderly person, and go on and be on your way. So I think we have succeeded in creating this simple mechanism, and this mechanism allowed for everyone who resonates with this idea to join in. The third element in our formula, I think, is values. At the very start of our work, with the pioneers, we started with the first group. We've talked about values a lot. How we will work, how we'll help, how we'll make decisions. And we invested our time in it. We outlined 3 values that are important for us: transparency, progress, and participation. And we explained to each other what these words mean for each of us. We deciphered them for us.
И с того момента, по сути, все свои действия, все свои
решения,
которые нам приходилось принимать
all of our decisions that we made in this initiative, sometimes they were contradictory, but we put them through a funnel of values that we selected for ourselves. And I'm confident that this kind of formula of involving people into helping the elderly, that was the idea, as a simple and clear mechanism that allowed to quickly join in and help. And the values, those are the values that we share. And many of our volunteers afterwards, they said that we love you for being what you are: transparent, modern, and very soulful. And for them, the project was about this, something very humane. And I think in general we have managed to achieve quite good results. And you can see it for yourself. I'll tell you what we did in more than 5 years. We started from 5 engaged or involved lady volunteers. Now we have 14 operational team and about 200 volunteers who join in the transportation distribution, and more than 10,000 subscribers on Facebook and other social networks as well. And if earlier I knew all of our volunteers by face, now I'm pleasantly surprised when during our work meetings I meet a new customer and they say that they know about us. And they say, I used to be a volunteer in your project. It's so nice. And we feel a lot of piety and thankfulness to our volunteers. We're so happy that we've created this mechanism for everybody to use to help them. So contributions are also quite a success story. In the first period, back in 2013, we had 60,000 hryvnia fundraised. We were so proud and happy because we didn't understand before how it should work. By 2020, the threshold is 6 million. So it's 100-fold growth. And I think it's a great indicator for a volunteer-based initiative. But that's not all. A couple of years ago, we thought about, well, we were growing so fast, and we thought, how many elderly need help in Ukraine? And it's huge numbers. And we say, yeah, we are present now in 7 cities of Ukraine, but we don't have the objective to cover all Ukrainian cities. We understand that in order to cover all the people who need help in Ukraine, we need to build a huge mechanism, an intermediary who will coordinate all that. And then we thought about a more simple, more effective way to do it, to implement it, to achieve the goal that we have. And then we thought, this is the volunteer way of work. The volunteer goes from one district to another in some sophisticated logistics, spending half a day on that. But in every house, in every condominium, there are elderly who need care and attention. In every house, there are younger people who could potentially help and would be willing and able. And all you need to do is help them meet, help them get to know each other. We call it the good neighborhood, or being good neighbors. And we started talking about that even more intensely during the quarantine, so that we can, even if we triple our transportation and distributions, we won't cover everyone. So we prepared some communications. We made a post on YouTube that anyone in your house, you can print it out and post it. So first of all, the objective was to make people draw their attention, that there are elderly living close to them, how to properly offer help to assistance to an elderly, what kind of assistance can a particular elderly need. And we believe in this idea because in our personal experience shows that changes are possible even from a small group of people. Even one person is capable of changing the situation for the better. And even more so, each of us holds a fraction of responsibility for that. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I will remind our audience that Irina Baranenko is the founder of Starenki Charitable Foundation, And our panel, the fourth panel of Ukrainian Pension Forum, is almost over, but we have one more speaker, and it's very important to discuss his topic because all these initiatives and charitable foundations, that's very important, but to change the culture of senility, to change the communication, we need communication on the state level. It should be some kind of strategy, very certain strategy that will be single one for everyone, for the state authorities, for media, for business, society, and all of us. And that's what we would like to discuss with the director of branding agency Galagan, Natalia Zakashanska. So, Natalia, you are the last speaker of this forum. You will wrap it up. And also, you having PhD, right, on this topic? Still in progress, right? Could you please share some ideas from it? Yeah, I have PhD on brand communications and even changes in brand communication connected to COVID, taking into consideration what problems do we have in the society. And you know, in my TV activity, I notice that very often they happen due to the lack of communication or wrong communication, because most of the problems would be solved timely. You know, we have a lot of information. At the moment, we live in informational ocean, but communication is a cornerstone because it depends on it. Will everyone get it or not? So our agency is creating communication strategy for years, and in our work with brands, we encounter with consumer, and it's very important and interesting for us to hear that we are studying Ukrainians whose values and aspirations changed even this year, sometimes cardinally. My presentation, please. Those who own the information own the world. And you know, these days, this mode is even more actual as always, because as before information was a method of communication, now it's one of the impact driver. How quality do we bring information to our audience?
Багато людей стикаються з інформацією про пенсійні фонди.
Many people can see some information on pension reform, on pension funds, everything that we are discussing these days. But let's look at this topic widely. In the environment, there is a lot of information, but people have no desire to dive into it. Communication or information, we know these words, but if we overlap them, we will get strategic communication, step-by-step strategy to get to some goal.
Від самої стратегічної комунікації залежить успіх всього того, що ми зараз з вами
And the success, general success of what we are discussing now depends on the strategic communication. Strategic communications are used in all elements of mass communication, and also today we discussed a lot overcoming stereotypes, but strategic communication can fight all stereotypes and create new stereotypes. In our country, we have a lot of stereotypes in the topic of retirement and pension reforms. We can see a lot of elderly people next to us, our neighbors, our relatives, and people can see how bad is their life. To make this strategic communication to
дослідити проблему,
build it.
проаналізувати
We need to
ситуацію,
analyze the problem,
оцінити ефективність,
the situation,
оцінити
to evaluate the
комунікаційні
efficiency,
ризики,
communication
потенційні
risks,
можливості,
potential
бюджет,
possibilities,
звісно,
budget,
стратегічно
and
операційні
surely
завдання, задачі, стратегії,
strategic
тактики.
goals
Але
and
перед
tactics.
цим треба задати собі такі питання і вирішити.
But before that, you should
Який
ask
результат
yourself,
ми маємо отримати,
what
яку проблему
result
вирішити,
do you want to get? What
яким
problem
способом
to solve? In
різні
what
суб'єкти
way?
комунікації отримують необхідну інформацію. І з залученням яких
Because we can get
інструментів,
communication
і
in
окрім
different
часу,
ways.
бюджету, ресурсів,
And besides
треба
time,
зрозуміти,
budget,
коли
and
ми будемо
resources,
знати, що досягли
need to
цілей.
understand how do we know
У нас
that
багато
we
кроків,
achieved our
і
goal?
кожен крок треба перевіряти, чи
We have a lot
досягли
of
ми
steps
цілей
in
чи
this
ні.
process,
І
and we
останнє
need to
питання
check every
–
one of
це
them.
на кого
Did we
спрямована
achieve the
наша
goal or not?
комунікація.
And the most important, who is our
бо
target
потрібно
audience?
доносити інформацію зрозуміло та доступно.
That's important because we
Може,
should be
це
very
така частина в
clear
мене була
and
не досить
accessible in our
легко
information.
зрозуміла, але я хочу сказати,
Probably
що
that part
сама,
wasn't particularly clear,
стратегічна
but I want to
комунікація
say
це
that
великий
strategic
об'єм
communication
інформації,
itself that's a huge volume of
і що
information.
зміни не можуть відбутися
Preparation and
одразу.
changes cannot
Через
happen at once.
Тиждень будуть іти роки, і все буде
In a week
покроково
or in a
змінюватися,
month.
якщо
No,
взагалі
we will see the results in
дотримуватися цієї
years
стратегічної комунікації. Так,
if we stick to the strategic
я поділила
communication.
нашу аудиторію на три прості
So
групи.
I
Я вважаю,
divided
що
our
аудиторія,
target
з якою
audience in
потрібно
three
вести
groups.
комунікації, її більше.
Surely we need to have communications with more audiences, but these three categories are elderly people, youth, and adults. And every one of these audience has their own fears, problems, information that they get through their own communication channels. And regarding the youth, by the way, Tatiana, why is it important to have national research? Because in this one we had about 35 people. No one in the age category 22 to 25 said us that they want to build any kind of plans for the future. That's why it is important to make national, all Ukrainian research with a lot of people, to work with big data, to influence our target audiences.
На кого буде спрямована наша комунікація, треба взагалі зрозуміти, чим живуть
We need to understand Ukrainians nowadays. That's very interesting. For me, this kind of research is very interesting. And sometimes we get unexpected results. For instance, there is a global research of values 2020. Here you can see who made this research. If you're interested, you can find them in internet. Notwithstanding all the troubles of these years in Ukraine, I mean economic crisis, I mean corona crisis, but year to year Ukrainian becomes more and more happy. Can you see 78% of Ukrainians responded that they felt happy? I didn't expect these results. If we compare it to other countries, it's not a lot, but we are also not at the end of the list. So how we can perceive this slide? Families responded that 46% of people were living on the breadline and 24 people were spending their savings. And this knowledge gives us possibility to build the right communication, to talk with people directly that they need to save money, for instance. But it is hard to have this kind of communication if they don't leave money even for today.
Тобто наша комунікація повинна бути
So
інша.
our communication should be
Ще
different.
цікава інформація у дослідженні про те, що
Also, it was a
українці
very
вважають,
interesting
що
information
їх
in the
права
research
не
that
поважаються.
Ukrainians
Тобто більшість українців вважають
think
це
their
так.
rights
Чому
are
це
not
і старі,
respected.
люди похилого віку,
And here there are
і,
all age
молоді,
categories,
люди середнього
elderly
віку.
people, adults
Це
and youth.
проблема.
That is a
Якщо ми
problem.
говоримо про права людей поважного віку,
If we are talking
ми
about
говоримо сьогодні і про
problems
свої
of
права
elderly
теж,
people
які,
specifically,
на жаль, не
we are talking about our rights as well. And at the moment, unfortunately, they are not protected. At least that's what we feel.
До таких висновків дійшли дослідники, що із зростанням оцінки доходів українці почали
So
менше
the
сподіватися на державу,
conclusions
більше
are the
розраховувати на себе.
following. The more
Можна сказати,
money
якщо
a
вони
person
розраховують на
gets,
себе,
the less
значить ми можемо
he
сьогодні починати
relies
комунікацію
on the
так,
state.
щоб казати, що ви можете відкладати, розраховувати на себе.
So we can start
думати про
our
своє майбутнє
communication
зараз.
from that.
А ні, треба
Please think about
ці
your future now.
дослідження і цьому
Rely on
дивитися.
yourself.
Бо з зростом того, що українець розраховує на себе, зростає гедонізм.
Because with personal responsibility, hedonism is growing. People want to be happy today.
Зовсім не про відкладання грошей і думання
And it's
про
not
думки
about
про
saving
майбутнє.
at all. It's
Тобто
not
з такими
about
людьми
thinking
комунікацію треба вести теж інакше.
about the futures. It means that communication with this kind of people should be different. I want to be retired.
Середньому та серед молодих людей, пробачте, хочуть бути пенсіонерами. Бо ми не хочемо старіти.
We cannot
А
find
якщо ми ще й не бачимо
any young people who want to be retired because we do not
бажання бути
want to be
екстремально
old.
молодим сьогодні все більше і більше збільшується.
Everyone
Тому
wants
як
to be
важливо вести
extremely
правильну
young all the
комунікацію
time.
і говорити
That's why it's
людям, що
important to
да,
have right communication and to tell people
буде інше
that
майбутнє,
it is
що
that
ми
future
можемо
can be different,
мати роботу,
that
що
we
ми
can have job,
можемо мати гідну пенсію, що ми і права наші можуть
that
бути
we can have
захищені.
decent pensions, that our rights can be protected.
Комунікація може бути стандартною, такою як
Communication
новини,
can be
чи,
standard like news.
чи, наприклад, форум. Це теж стандартна
Oh,
комунікація.
this forum, for
але
instance,
може
that
бути
is an
і
example of
альтернативна
standard
комунікація.
communication, but also it can be
Тетяна
alternative
сказала
communication, as
про
Tatiana
фільм «Стажер».
mentioned this movie already in turn. That's very interesting that after this movie was released, Robert De Niro is a retired person here.
Пенсіонер, по суті, який грає пенсіонера, якщо чесно говорити правильно.
It's a kind of retired person who is playing retired person. Yeah, that's right. So he started working in one company and he started a new life. He started a new relationship. Another love came to his life. You know, it was not planned, but the employment level of 55 plus people is quarter% less than all over the world. That's what Lydia told us about when she talked about mini volunteers program. But you know, we can see that our problem is the lack of information, because I was very interested in your program. I would like my kid to join it. But let's come back to the information and communication. To have information, it's not enough. We need to have communication in the right way. Your program 1+1. You know, I had goosebumps when I was watching this video, because that's exactly how alternative communication works, and it works very well. Right strategic communication, when everyone is sticking to it, media, state, business,
впевнена в цьому, що призведе до того, що у майбутнього ми змінимо ставлення людей до пенсіонерів,
will bring us to the new attitude to retired people, to life in retirement. It can calm us to personal responsibility for our future life. That's it. Thank you very much. You know what I thought? You had a very right thought. There is so much information in this world that it's important not information did we get, but how we did it. If you had goosebumps from 1+1 videos, that's because they did it in the right way. But if we return to this hedonist who like to spend money now, you can also find common language with them. You can tell them, now you are happy, now you like to eat delicious food, you like to travel, but you will need to save just 4% from your salary to do it as long as possible. That's an example of such a communication. Thank you very much for you inspired me. Yeah, we can find approach to every station if we just think a lot. And now the task of the state is to think about senility model in Ukraine. We are very grateful to officials, ministers, media employees, to every participant of Ukrainian Pension Forum. In some time, we will come back to you with a ready strategy of decent senility in Ukraine. Please follow us on Facebook for Ukrainian Pension Forum. If you missed yesterday, you can find videos at Let's Help website, at Liga.net website. All information is there. Thank you very much for your comments when you write to us where can we read about pension reform in Ukraine, because I can see that you're not 15, but you just started being interested in this issue. You can find a lot of information in the media. You've seen all the experts. You can follow them in social media to know more, because every one of us, unfortunately, but we will change it, will be pensioners in Ukraine. And also you can see emails on your screen. You can send your proposals to idea@pensionforum.org.ua. And thank you everyone for being with us on our conversation about elegant senility in Ukraine. And I'm not saying you goodbye. See you next time.